What if the greatest form of control is not controlling at all? Think about that. Most people push harder when they want results. They force conversations, they chase attention, they demand respect. They try to convince, persuade, and dominate. And strangely, the harder they push, the more life pushes back. Because human nature has a hidden rule. People resist pressure, but move toward freedom. The moment someone feels controlled, they protect their independence. The moment someone feels forced, they hesitate. The moment someone feels chased, they step away. That is where reverse control begins. Reverse control is not manipulation. It is understanding. It is knowing that influence does not come from force. It comes from positioning, from patience, from timing, from becoming the person who doesn't need to prove anything. Look around. The strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. The most respected person is rarely the one demanding attention. The most influential people understand something most never learn. People value what they choose, and life works the same way. Stop chasing opportunities and become someone opportunities seek. Stop forcing outcomes and become someone outcomes follow. Stop trying to convince the world of your value and start acting like value already belongs to you. Reverse psychology isn't about tricks. It's about mastering yourself so deeply that your energy changes every room you walk into. When you stop begging for results, results begin noticing you. When you stop seeking approval, respect starts appearing. When you stop reacting, you start leading. The world does not reward desperation, it rewards certainty. And today, you are going to learn 6 powerful principles that can completely shift the way you influence situations, build confidence, and take control of your life without forcing anything. Because sometimes the fastest way forward is to stop pushing. If this message speaks to you, stay until the end and challenge yourself to apply just one principle today. Not every battle deserves your voice. Read that again. Because most people believe power means speaking first, speaking louder, and speaking more. They think confidence is measured by how quickly they respond, how strongly they defend themselves, or how much they explain their actions. But real influence works differently. There is a strange kind of power that appears when you stop trying to fill every silence. Think about the moments when someone criticizes you, doubts you, misunderstands you, or expects a reaction. Most people rush to defend themselves. They immediately explain. They try to prove they are right, and in doing so, they give away their power. Because when your emotions become controlled by every comment, every opinion, and every situation, your direction no longer belongs to you. Strategic silence is not weakness, it is discipline. It is the ability to stay centered while everyone else becomes emotional. Silence creates mystery. Silence creates observation. Silence gives you something that constant talking never will: clarity. When you stop speaking for a moment, you begin seeing things you missed before. You notice tone. You notice intentions. You notice what people actually mean instead of reacting to the first words you hear. And something even more powerful happens. People start revealing themselves. Most individuals cannot handle silence. They rush to explain, justify, and fill empty space. And in that process, they expose their thoughts, motivations, and emotions. Meanwhile, the person who remains calm gains understanding. That does not mean staying silent forever. It means speaking only when your words carry weight. Imagine entering a room and not feeling the need to prove yourself. Imagine hearing criticism and deciding your peace matters more than immediate validation. Imagine becoming so secure in your value that you no longer explain every decision. That is power. Not because silence controls others, but because it proves you control yourself. Every pause says, I do not react automatically. Every calm response says, my emotions answer to me. Every moment of patience says, I choose my energy carefully. And once people realize you cannot be pulled into every distraction, your presence changes. Your words become stronger. Your decisions become sharper. Your confidence becomes quieter, but impossible to ignore. Because confidence does not always speak. Sometimes it simply stays still. Stop convincing, start becoming. Most people spend their lives trying to push doors open. They explain their dreams before they build them. They ask for recognition before creating results. They chase attention, approval, opportunities, and respect. And the more they push, the more resistance they feel. But there is another way, a quieter way, a stronger way. The law of pull is built on one simple truth. People are drawn to what already carries energy, direction, and certainty. Think about the people who naturally attract opportunities. They do not seem desperate to be noticed. They do not spend all day proving themselves. They are focused, they are building, they are moving, and because of that, attention follows them. This principle is not about pretending not to care. It is about becoming so committed to growth that your energy shifts from seeking validation to creating value. When you constantly try to convince people, you give them authority over your confidence. You wait for permission, you wait for approval, you wait for someone else to tell you that you are enough. But when you start becoming, everything changes. Instead of saying you will become disciplined, you become disciplined. Instead of announcing your goals, you quietly work. Instead of asking people to believe in you, you become undeniable. There is something magnetic about people who act with certainty. Not arrogance, not ego, certainty. They do not force conversations. They do not chase every opportunity. They prepare themselves so well that opportunities begin moving toward them. Imagine a tree. Does a tree chase birds? No, it grows. And because it grows, birds arrive. That is reverse control. Focus less on attracting and more on becoming attractive through action. Build knowledge, build character, build skill, build consistency. People notice progress long before they notice promises. And here is something powerful. When you stop chasing approval, your decisions become clearer. You stop changing yourself to fit every room. You stop shrinking to gain acceptance. You stop performing. You begin living with direction. You realize your energy is too valuable to spend convincing people who have already decided not to understand. Your responsibility is not to make everyone believe in you. Your responsibility is to become the version of yourself that no longer depends on belief from others. Keep improving, keep creating, keep showing up. And one day people will ask, how did you become this confident? But they will never see the quiet days, the unseen work, the moments you stopped pushing and started becoming. Attachment creates pressure. Pressure changes people. It changes the way they think, the way they act, and the way they perform. Most people believe success comes from wanting something badly enough. They become emotionally attached to outcomes. They tell themselves, I must win. This has to work. I cannot fail. And without realizing it, their focus leaves the process and becomes trapped in the result. That is where reverse control begins. Because the more desperately you hold on to something, the more power you give it over your emotions. You stop thinking clearly, you overreact. You force conversations, you chase answers. You become afraid of mistakes, and fear quietly replaces confidence. Control detachment does not mean becoming careless. It does not mean giving up. It means learning to work with commitment while staying emotionally balanced. It means understanding that effort belongs to you, but outcomes do not always. Think about athletes before competition. The moment they become obsessed with winning, tension appears. Movements become unnatural. Decisions become rushed. Pressure increases. But when they trust preparation and stay present, performance improves. Life works the same way. When your happiness depends entirely on one opportunity, one person, one answer, or one result, you become emotionally fragile. Every delay feels personal. Every setback feels permanent. Every challenge feels bigger than it really is. But when you practice control detachment, you become steady. You still care, you still work, you still move forward. But your identity stays untouched by temporary outcomes. You stop saying, if this doesn't happen, I lose, and start saying, I will grow either way. That mindset changes everything. You become calmer under pressure, you make better decisions, you recover faster, you stop forcing life. Because forcing rarely creates excellence. Presence creates excellence. Control detachment also teaches patience, not passive waiting, intentional patience. The ability to continue showing up even when results are invisible. The ability to trust progress before evidence appears. The ability to stay committed without becoming consumed. And something powerful happens when people reach this state. They become difficult to shake. Failure no longer destroys them, success no longer controls them, opinions no longer define them. They move with purpose instead of panic, because they understand a truth many never learn. You perform best when you stop trying to hold life too tightly. Do the work, give your best, prepare fully, care deeply, but leave space between your identity and the outcome. Because when your peace no longer depends on immediate results, your strength becomes unstoppable. And that quiet freedom is where true control begins. Your attention is your currency. Every day, whether you realize it or not, you spend it. You spend it on conversations, you spend it on thoughts, you spend it on distractions, opinions, notifications, arguments, and worries. And the truth is, where your attention goes, your life follows. Most people think success is only about time management, but time is not the real challenge. Attention is. Because everyone has 24 hours. What separates people is where they place their focus. Look around. People fight for attention everywhere. Platforms compete for it. Opinions demand it. Distractions chase it. And many people give it away without thinking. They react to every message. They answer every criticism. They compare themselves to everyone. They become available to everything and committed to nothing. That creates a dangerous cycle. The more scattered your attention becomes, the weaker your direction feels. You start many things, you finish few. You become busy but not effective. Reverse control teaches something different. Your attention should not be available on demand. It should be intentional. Not everything deserves access to your energy. Not every opportunity deserves your yes. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every thought deserves your belief. One of the strongest things a person can learn is how to choose what deserves their focus. Because focus is not saying yes. Focus is saying no. No to unnecessary noise. No to endless comparison. No to constant interruption. No to things that steal energy but create nothing. Imagine carrying a limited amount of fuel every day. Would you waste it driving in circles, or would you use it to reach somewhere meaningful? Attention works the same way. Every reaction costs energy. Every distraction carries a price. Every moment spent feeding fear, doubt, or meaningless noise is attention that cannot be invested somewhere valuable. And the people who create extraordinary results understand this. They protect their minds. They protect their mornings. They protect their goals. They are not unreachable. They are intentional. There is a difference. Being intentional means understanding that your energy creates your reality. When your attention becomes rare, your actions become stronger. Your words become clearer. Your goals become sharper. Your presence becomes more powerful. People begin respecting your time because you respect it first. You stop needing to respond immediately. You stop feeling pressure to be everywhere. You stop chasing every possibility. Instead, you move with purpose. Because attention is not infinite. It is one of the most valuable things you own. Spend it where growth lives. Spend it where your future grows stronger. Spend it where your mind becomes greater. And remember, what receives your attention eventually receives your life. Most people misunderstand confidence. They think confidence means walking into a room and believing everyone will admire them. They think confidence means never feeling fear, never feeling doubt, and never questioning themselves. But that is not confidence, that is dependence disguised as confidence. Because if your confidence rises and falls based on how people respond to you, then your confidence does not belong to you, it belongs to them. Reverse confidence begins with a different belief. It says, my value does not increase because someone approves of me, and it does not decrease because someone ignores me. That changes everything. Think about how many decisions people make just to be accepted. They stay quiet to avoid judgment. They change goals to fit expectations. They hesitate to begin because they fear criticism. They wait for signs that everyone agrees before taking action. And slowly their life becomes controlled by reactions instead of direction. But reverse confidence works differently. It does not ask, what do they think of me? It asks, what do I think of my own effort, growth, and character? That question shifts power back into your hands. Because once you stop treating approval like survival, you become free. You stop trying to impress every person. You stop performing for strangers. You stop explaining yourself to people who already decided not to understand. You begin acting from conviction instead of validation. That does not mean becoming arrogant. Arrogance says, I am better than everyone. Reverse confidence says, I do not need to compete with everyone. Arrogance needs attention. Confidence creates value. Arrogance speaks loudly. Confidence stays steady. There will always be people who doubt you, people who misunderstand your decisions, people who question your timing, people who expect you to stay the same because your growth makes them uncomfortable. If your confidence depends on changing their minds, you will stay trapped. But if your confidence comes from knowing your direction, their opinions lose control. Imagine waking up and no longer measuring your worth by likes, praise, applause, or recognition. Imagine working hard because excellence matters to you. Imagine entering opportunities not thinking, I hope they accept me, but thinking, I will give my best either way. That energy feels different. People notice it. Not because you seek attention, but because certainty creates presence. And here is the truth. You do not become confident after achieving everything. You become confident by keeping promises to yourself, by acting when uncertain, by continuing when results are invisible, by trusting your growth before others recognize it. Confidence is not built when everyone believes in you. Confidence is built when you continue moving even before anyone does. And the moment your value stops depending on approval, you become impossible to control. Because your confidence finally comes from the one place that cannot be taken, within you. You cannot lead reactions. Most people try to control life from the outside. They try to control people, situations, outcomes, timing, and opinions. They want everything to go their way before they feel calm, before they feel ready, before they feel strong. But life does not respond to control on the outside. It responds to control on the inside. Self-mastery before influence is the final and deepest law of reverse control because it shifts the battlefield from the world around you to the world within you. And that is where real power begins. Think about it. Every time you lose your temper, you lose direction. Every time you react impulsively, you lose clarity. Every time you let emotions decide your actions, you give away leadership of your own life. Most people don't realize they are not controlled by others. They are controlled by their own reactions to others. That is the hidden truth. When someone says something negative and you instantly react, they are not controlling you. Your reaction is. When a situation becomes stressful and you panic, the situation is not in control. Your emotional response is. This is why self-mastery is everything. Because if you cannot manage your internal state, no external success will stay stable. Reverse control begins when you stop reacting automatically and start responding intentionally. There is a pause that changes everything, a moment between stimulus and response. In that moment lies your power. Most people skip it. They react instantly, they speak instantly, they decide instantly, and later regret instantly. But when you learn to master that pause, your entire life changes. You stop being pushed by circumstances. You start choosing your direction. Self-mastery means controlling your attention, your emotions, your habits, and your thoughts before trying to control anything else. It means understanding that discipline is not restriction, it is freedom. Because without discipline, you are controlled by impulses. With discipline, you are guided by intention. Imagine someone who cannot be shaken by criticism, who does not collapse under pressure, who does not chase validation, who does not lose focus when things go wrong. That person is not superhuman. That person is simply self-controlled. And that is what makes influence effortless. Because people naturally trust those who are stable. They follow those who are calm in chaos. They respect those who do not break under pressure. But none of that comes from trying to control the outside world. It comes from mastering the inside world first. And once you achieve that, you no longer need to force influence. It begins to follow you naturally. Because when you are no longer easily moved, you become impossible to ignore. Everything you've heard leads to one simple truth. Reverse control is not about manipulating life, people, or outcomes. It is about mastering yourself so deeply that life no longer has easy access to your emotions, your focus, or your direction. When you stop forcing situations, something unexpected happens. Clarity begins to rise. When you stop chasing validation, your presence becomes stronger. When you stop reacting to everything, your mind becomes sharper. And when you stop trying to control the outside world, you finally gain control over the only thing that truly matters, your inner world. That is where real transformation begins, not in louder words, but in quieter discipline, not in chasing approval, but in building certainty, not in controlling others, but in controlling your own responses, habits, and attention. And slowly, without force, life starts responding differently to you. Opportunities feel closer, decisions feel clearer, confidence feels natural, because you are no longer scattered, you're centered. Reverse control was never about power over people. It was always about power over self. And the moment you realize that, you stop living like a reaction to life and start living like the source of it.